faster. All right, so this is where we ended up last week, where the pirates were taking us to their hideout, right? You are their prisoner right now. And this question looks like last week's question, but I changed it up so we can have a little revision on what we did in the last few minutes of class last week. So the aim of the question is to find the value of x. Get started. That's all, guys. 1 second. What I'm going to do, I'm going to split this up into two pieces. I'm going to draw the top triangle separately, and of course, the underneath triangle separately. So you see the yellow triangle and the green triangle. What I'm going to do is try to find this length first, from here all the way to here. I'm going to try to find that first. So we know here's the right angle. If I'm standing up by this angle, we know this side is the opposite and the 29 is the hypotenuse. So if I want to find this side here, I have to use a formula with opposite and hypotenuse in it. And there's only one formula with that, and that is what? Sine. So if you want to find the opposite, you block the opposite, and what are you left with? Hypotenuse multiplied by sine theta. So to find the opposite side, so I'll put O for opposite, we have to take the hypotenuse, which is 29, and multiply it by sine of the angle we are standing up in. And the angle we are standing up in is 50 degrees. So let's work this piece out first. 29 multiplied by sine 50. 29 multiplied by sine 50. And we will get roughly 22.215. But if we go to 2 decimal places, it's going to be 22.22. How much people at least had up to there? Like you found the length of the blue line first, and you found it very close to 22.22. Right. So that's the first step. You had to find that first. So here's the thing, right? We know the length of this side for the green triangle is 22.22. I just transferred the value. So let's pay attention to the green triangle now. For the green triangle, we want to find x. So if we're standing by the 38, we know x is the hypotenuse, and this 22.22, by now we know this is the adjacent side. It's adjacent to the 38 degrees. There's only one formula with adjacent and hypotenuse here, and that's Mr. Cosine. So for the cosine formula, we want to find the hypotenuse because that is represented by x. How do we find the hypotenuse? We block the hypotenuse and we are left with adjacent divided by cosine. So to find x, which is the hypotenuse, x is the adjacent side, which is 22.22 divided by cosine of the angle that we're standing up in. So if we do that, 22.22 divided by cosine 38, and we'll get roughly 28.1975. But if we round this off to 2 decimal places, we'll get 28.20, and we have to put centimeters for our final answer. So that is the value of x. For those who got it wrong, just give me a brief rundown on what your mistake was, okay? Be as well, as accurate as you can with regards to what you started. All right, so right now you're a prisoner to the pirates, right? They chained you up, right? Y'all remember it had this this island called the Oasis that had the faceless and whatnot. So the pirates have a plan, right? They're gonna go to the Oasis, that's the island of Trinidad, and sell you for gold to the faceless. All right, so let's continue with the storyline here. All right. All right, so here we have another question, kind of similar to the one we just did. So it's more practice. Now, in this one, they want you to find the angle PQS. Well, that's angle X they want you to find, right? So remember last week I told you, when they tell you 3 letters, it's always the middle letter, right? So they want you to find the value of X, which is an angle. So your answer has to be in degrees. So we're going to attempt to find this pink line first. So if we're standing at the 65, well, then the pink line is definitely what? The opposite. We know that this slanted line is the hypotenuse, but I don't think he's relevant to the question. And the 3 is the adjacent. So to find the pink line, we need to choose a formula with opposite and adjacent in it. And that's Mr. Tan. So we want to find the opposite side. So how do we find the opposite side? We block the opposite and we're left with adjacent multiplied by tan theta. So to find the opposite side, it's the adjacent length multiplied by tan of the angle we are standing up in, which is 65 degrees. So let's type in this. 3 multiplied by tan 65. And I'm getting roughly 6.433 or something like that. But let's go to the 2 decimal places. So we know this pink line is 6.43. Now we still want to find X. Now only pay attention to the larger triangle. If we are standing by X in the larger triangle, then the 10 is definitely the hypotenuse, and this 6.43 is right next to the angle, so he is the adjacent. So to find angle X, we need to choose a formula with adjacent and hypotenuse in it. And that's only one guy it could be, cosine. So if we want to find the angle itself, that means we have to use the whole cosine. So to find angle X, we say cosine X because X is we're replacing theta with X, and it's the adjacent divided by the hypotenuse. The adjacent is 6.43, the hypotenuse is 10. So we divide this, and I think some people stop here by mistake. Is that the end of the question? Is the final answer 0.643 or 0.6 something? And the response to that is no, right? Because remember, this is what you just found. Cosine X is 0.643, but I want the value of X alone. So that means I have to take Mr. Cosine and throw him across. And the opposite of cosine is cosine inverse. And rare people forgot this last step, right? So I'm squeezing in the final answer here. Second function, cosine, 0.643. And we're getting roughly 49.98. But some people put 50 degrees. That's excusable today. So take either 49 point something correct or 50 degrees. Yes. No, the answer is not centimeters. Somebody said the answer should be in centimeters. Aren't we finding an angle? Angles are measured in degrees. So if you put centimeters, the examiner would take away marks for it, right? Right. For those who got it wrong, just give me a small rundown on, what your mistake might is about. All right. So we have a little cutscene here. Right, so you all set sail to go to the oasis. Captain pirate music there. Right. All right, so This one isn't too difficult. I think we did one like this last week with it's supposed to be an isosceles triangle where these two lengths are the same. I want you to do two things: find the height of the triangle and the area of the triangle. It's actually on the screen itself. It's not an isosceles triangle. They said it was an equilateral triangle. My mistake. That means all three sides have the same length. Sorry about that. A triangle. Well, what do we know about equilateral triangles? All the sides have the same length, but also what? All the angles in an equilateral triangle are the same. Do you all remember from primary school? In an equilateral triangle, all the angles will be how much? 60 degrees. We just have to take 180 and divide it by 3 because all the angles in a triangle add up to 180, right? So how much people figured that out, that you needed to realize that all the angles were 60 degrees. Great. Now, once you do that, right, we could take half of the triangle. We can just take half of it. We don't have to take the whole thing, okay? So just now, I think I shouldn't have drawn it in this corner. Let me have more space here. Let's take this half of the triangle here, right? So we know here would be a right angle. We just reasoned out here was 60 degrees. And this whole underneath is 10. Now, in an equilateral triangle too, when you drop a line straight down the center, it will split the base in two exact equal pieces. So here would be 5 centimeters. And we want to find h, right? So if we're standing by the 60 degrees, this 5 is the adjacent, so I'll put ADJ, right? And this h is what? The opposite. So we're trying to find the opposite side, which is the hypotenuse. Now, there's only one formula with opposite and adjacent, and that's Mr. Tan. So we want to find which side, the opposite side. To find the opposite side is adjacent multiplied by tan. Now, remember, they use the word h here, the letter h. A lot of people might confuse h with hypotenuse, but that h today is representing the height, right? So that's why I spell out the word OPP now, right? Or opposite. I doesn't want to put O or whatnot. That's to be really, really specific. So to find the opposite side, which is h, we have to take the adjacent side, which is 5, and multiplied by tan theta, 60 degrees. So let's see what we get. 5 multiplied by tan 60. Anybody got 8.66 roughly? Centimeters, right? Right. Now, so we get an 8.66. Well, I can put the answer here, right? 8.66 centimeters. Now, to find the area of the triangle, I'm going to use the easier formula. Remember, we could have used two sides and the angle in between, just like last week. But today, look at it. It's so much easier to use base by vertical height divided by 2. Because to find the area of a triangle, we could use base by vertical height divided by 2. The base is 10. The vertical height is 8.66. And we have to divide it by 2. That's mandatory. So 10 multiplied by 8.66 divided by 2. We're getting roughly 43.3 centimeters squared. All right. Now, for those who got it wrong, you can just, as usual, give me a quick rundown on what was the mistake here. All right. All right, so they reached the coastline of the oasis. Both reaches. This giant crab. Remember, last week there was rumors of giant monsters roaming around the island. All right, so we'll continue that storyline in a little bit. All right, so let's see. This one here was a past paper question. I can't remember the year. So here's a trapezium. And remember, in a trapezium, these two sides are parallel, and they want you to find the value of k to 1 decimal place. So right, they said 1 decimal place today, but remember, if they ask for the answer to 1 decimal place, let's still work with 2 decimal places and then round off our final answer to 1. If I were to draw a line coming down here, just a line coming down, I think everyone will, once this is a vertical line, we will get what? A right angle. Who can tell me what the length of the yellow line will be? No calculation required. Look at the diagram. What do you think the length of the yellow line will be? Right, it will be 20, because if here is 20, you'll notice there's a rectangle inside here. Opposite sides of a rectangle are equal. So what I can do now, let me only pay attention to the triangle. So I'm only going to draw back the triangle. We know here is 22. We just saw here was 20. Can we find this missing length here? Using what? Pythagoras theorem, because we have the length of 2 sides and we want to find the missing side of this right angle triangle. To find this missing side, but I'll call here x. Which one do we need? The one with the addition or the one with the subtraction? What are your thoughts on that? Right, Kenya, correct. Right, Hackett, correct. Right. Right, we definitely gonna have to use the subtraction because x is a regular boring side. The 22 is the hypotenuse. So to find x, we just say 22 squared minus 20 squared, and we square root last, right? So we use this guy here. Let's work that out. 22 squared minus 20 squared, we're going to get 84. And when we square root 84, we're going to get roughly 9.17 or something like that, right? Or 9.1765 centimeters. So I think everyone here could agree that this green line here, we got to take a marker here. This green line here is 9.17. If the whole line is 30 and the green portion alone is 9.17, how much is this portion here? How much is the blue portion? Because the whole thing is 30 and the green part is 9.17. Isn't that a simple subtraction question? 30 minus 9.17. 30 minus 9.17, and we're getting roughly 20.83 centimeters. Now, if here's 20.83, and the opposite side of the rectangle will also be 20.83, therefore K is 20.83 centimeters. Right? All right, right. And I'm supposed to go to 1 decimal place, so it's 20.8. Right? Right. See what this crab does to these pirates. right? So it seems that you jump overboard here and the pirate is caught in the claws of the, right, of the giant crab. Yeah, poor pirate. But at least you made it to shore and you have to swim to the oasis now because you're so close. That's your only piece of land. All right, let's move on. All right, so I want to discuss something called angle of elevation and angle of depression. This is going to be super easy to understand, right? A lot of students overthink this. Anytime you're doing angle of elevation or angle of depression, always assume that you are looking in a horizontal direction. Angle of elevation just means you are going to tilt your head upwards. To elevate means to go upwards. So if I come and tell you the angle of elevation is 20 degrees, that's the angle between the horizontal line and the slanted line going upwards. Angle of depression is just the opposite. In angle of depression, if I tell you it's 35 degrees, it's the angle between the horizontal line, and this time you're looking downwards. So it's the angle between the horizontal line and the line going downwards. So this would be 35 degrees. Really, really simple concept. One more thing you need to know today. For those who have been following up on the Saturday classes, which is mandatory, right? Do you all remember that when you have two parallel lines and you slice it, do you all remember that this angle and this angle are always equal? You call those alternating angles, right? For those who are not following up on the Saturday classes, make sure you start looking at the recordings. The Saturday class recordings will help you revise what was done in Form 1 and all the way to Form 3, which is a huge part of the CSEC exam. All right? Right. So take down everything on the screen, and everything that we're discussing here is going to come back in the questions just after this slide. All right, so just let me know when you are finished writing down everything. That's some bad English here. So it's a face that appears and grab you. Okay. All right, so I need everyone to write down this question though. And when you're finished writing it down, just take a 20 seconds and then we're going to draw the diagram and work it out together. So let's get started with this question. Okay, so there's someone called Brian flying this kite. Now, in this question, we're going to have to assume that the height of Brian is so small in comparison with the length of string and whatnot that we're not going to draw the height of Brian in the picture. So we're going to pretend that Brian is in these bushes here, right? So we can't actually see Brian, right? All we're seeing is that a string is coming out here, flying a kite. So this is supposed to be the kite here, right? Right. Yeah, that's the best I could do. All right. So according to this, right, Brian's kite is flying above the field at the end of a 65-meter string. Which one? Now, obviously, we draw a line going down here, right? We're going to get a right angle triangle, right? Back the pink, the yellow, and back to Brian. Brian is supposed to be around here. Which one is supposed to be the 65? Is the 65 meters going here, Or is the 65 meters the pink line? And a lot of students mix this up. Right? Right, this one's an easy one, right? Because the string itself is 65 meters. And I've seen a lot of people put the 65 by the yellow line for some reason. I'm not too sure, right? But if you were thinking that, well, you know what the correct answer is now. So there's a right angle triangle here. So oops, 1 second, right? Make a different color coming across there so you can see it. They said the angle of elevation to the kite is 70 degrees. So Brian is here. In order to see the kite, he has to tilt his head upwards, obviously. So this angle here is 70 degrees. That's all the question is saying, you know, but they're using fancy words. But look at it, it's just a right angle triangle. They want to know how high the kite is above his head. They're really asking for the vertical height in this question. So they're asking you to find X. All right. So do you all think you all can find X? They gave you an angle. They gave you 65 meters. Use either sine, tan, or cosine to find X. As simple as that. So we're standing by the 70 degrees in this question. So we're standing over here. I think everyone knows the 65 is definitely the hypotenuse, right? Definitely the hypotenuse. And this X is the opposite side. So I put O for opposite. We're trying to find the opposite given the hypotenuse. This question involves opposite and hypotenuse. There's only one formula with that, and that is what? Sine. So to find the opposite, we block the opposite, and we're left with hypotenuse multiplied by sine theta. Opposite is hypotenuse multiplied by sine theta. The hypotenuse is 65, and sine and theta is the angle we're standing up in. Let me type this in. I am getting roughly 61.08 centimeters. All right. So a few people got it wrong, but I suspect they used tan by mistake instead of sine. Right. So as usual, give me some feedback on it. The answer is supposed to be in meters. I put centimeters by mistake, and they are correct. Yes. I see they capture you and make you walk through this dark, well, creepy cave. They don't speak, they just point like, I don't know. All right. So I want you to write this question down, and I want you to try to draw the diagram. I already put in the cliff and everything for you. Remember, angle of depression means you are looking horizontal and tilt your head downwards. The cliff itself, right, is how high? They said it's 40 meters high. We got a different color there. Right, so the height of the cliff is 40 meters. So if you fall 40 meters. Apparently, there's an object somewhere down here, right? So somewhere there's an object. So if someone is on top of the cliff and they're facing horizontal, in order to see the object, which is on the ground, they have to tilt their head downwards. Which angle is 34? And this is what a lot of people get wrong. Is this angle 34 or is this one 34? The one with the dot or the one with the X? Which one is the 34 degrees? right? And a lot of people will get this wrong, right? It's the one with the X. Remember, you are looking forward and you are tilting your head downwards. So the angle of depression is from the horizontal line all the way to the angle to see the object. All right. So this is the angle of depression. But there's a little problem, right? We know that, I think you all could probably see a right angle triangle here, right? Like if I draw this back properly, you all will see this, right? With here being 34 degrees, here being 40 meters, here's your right angle. And they want, here's what they want. They want the length of the orange line, the distance of the object from the base of the hill. This 34 degrees, you all notice it's not inside the triangle. Look at the right angle triangle. That 34 degrees is outside. When we have to use sine, tan, or cosine, the angle has to be inside the triangle. Look at every single question we did before. We had an angle either here, or we had an angle either here. They were inside the triangle. But there are two ways we could approach this, and I would prefer this one, right? Remember, won't this be a Z angle? Look at it, an alternating angle. You have two parallel lines, the horizontal line here and the horizontal line here. If here's 34 degrees, won't here also be 34 degrees if we use alternating angle theory? If we do that now, this 34 lands inside the triangle. So now you all could find X using sine, tan, or cosine. Only pay attention to the right angle triangle now. Once we figure out this is 34 degrees using alternating angles, we don't need this anymore, because we got here to be 34 degrees. So you're not flipping anything. You're using the triangle as it is. All right, Bruce, check it back. All right, so the angle that we're standing up in is the 34 degrees. So based on this, the 4t is the opposite, right? 1 second, right, that's a little better. The 4t is the opposite, and x is the adjacent. So there's only one formula we could use here, tan. So if we're using tan and we want to find the adjacent, we block the adjacent. We're left with opposite divided by tan theta. So to find x, well, I'll do the working up here. X is the opposite divided by tan theta. The length of the opposite side is 40 divided by tan. The angle is 34. And when we do this, we're getting roughly 59.30 meters. Right, so for those who got it wrong, check it back, right? I'm not too sure where you could have gone wrong with this one. See what's going on with this crazy place. Right, so you're coming to the other side of the cave. They made you walk. You're hearing noises, some really, really huge sounds. All right, so that seems to be somewhat interesting. All right, guys, so this one here, another angle of elevation type of question. Already putting piece of the drawing for you. Write down the question, complete the diagram, and see if you can send the answer. right? There's a small error here, but both of them supposed to be feet, right? I don't know if you all even saw that, right? So I think everyone knows that the height of the tower is 60, right? So we know here is definitely 60 feet. But I think a lot of people misinterpreting this sentence. The airplane takes off 200 feet in front of a building. That 200 is not the slanted line. It's not the hypotenuse. In front the building is over here. It's the horizontal line from the base of the building to where? The plane. So, and they're asking for this angle, the angle of elevation. The angle of elevation is a horizontal line towards the slanted line. And that was the mistake a lot of people were making. So they want this angle X. So knowing that now, if you're trying to find X, here's the opposite, here's the adjacent. Only one formula you can use here, and that is Mr. Tan. So if you want to find the angle tan, you have to use the whole tan theta. So tan theta leaves you with what? Opposite divided by adjacent. So tan x, well, the angle is x today, is opposite divided by adjacent. 60 divided by 200, you're going to get 0.3. But that's not the final answer. Remember, tan x is equal to 0.3. You have to throw across the tan to get tan inverse 0.3, and that will give you an angle of how much? Oh, I should type it in second function, tan 0.3. You're getting 16.70 if you round it off properly, degrees. Right, so it was just a minor misinterpretation of where that 200 would go. But when they phrase the question like this, it's the horizontal distance on the ground is the 200. So, my horrible English here. That's supposed to be the word we. Right, so it seems the faceless have a plan. They're not bad people after all. They're just trying to get rid of the pirates by using the monsters. Yeah, probably have some other typos there. All right, so let's move on. All right, so this one here, it only looks scary, but at the end of the day, it's just a triangle living on top of a rectangle. Right? Feel free to send your answers in about 2 minutes. What I want to do is just draw back this triangle on top. That's this yellow triangle here. So that means over here is supposed to be A, over here is supposed to be M. So this distance is common D. So at the end of the day, they want you to find D, that distance. So the examiner gave you this angle as 16 degrees. That's given on the diagram. All right. Yeah, Daria, correct as well. But they didn't give you any lengths. But shouldn't it be very, very easy to figure out this length here? If here is 52 and this one is 91, couldn't you all figure out this missing distance? Because if here is 52, won't here also be 52? the opposite sides of a rectangle. So if the whole thing is 91, and you know here is 52, couldn't you reason out this distance here? And once you get that distance, you can either use sine, tan, or cosine to complete the question. So to find this missing length here is just 91 minus 52, right? 91 minus 52 gives us 39 meters. So we have one angle, one length. We could either use sine, tan, or cosine now to figure out D, right? So Cicely, check it back. If we're standing by the 16, the 39 is definitely the opposite, and D is definitely the hypotenuse. Only one of them has opposite and hypotenuse in it, and that would be what? Sine. So if we're trying to find D, which is the hypotenuse, hypotenuse is what? Opposite divided by sine theta. So to find D, it's the opposite side, which is 39, divided by sine of the angle we are standing in. That gives us, double checking it here, 141.49 meters.